Okay, well, I'm Professor Jason Hall-Spencer. I work at Plymouth University and I'm studying ocean acidification, which is the process by which carbon dioxide is getting into the seas from the atmosphere, forming a weak acid and making the oceans more acidic.
And the Daily Mail question, so what? Why should I care?
Well, it could be a massive game changer. I'm looking at areas where CO2 is increased next to volcanoes, which go way beyond the levels of CO2 we predict going forwards into the future. But I'm focusing on areas that are like we expect for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And there we see huge changes. For example, the diversity of what lives in the sea crashes down. Things that we rely on for food can't carry on and can't reproduce in those conditions. So I think it's an issue of utmost importance and should be factored into all the other things we need to worry about. Now, it can get to the point where you think, well, there's too much to worry about. Hang on a minute, what can we do? But luckily, there's some things that we can focus on that help the situation generally. For example, we know that the seas are more resilient if we remove pressures for them. And some pressures I've worked on a lot are fishing. If you don't fish the sea in an unsustainable way, for example, by dragging lots of heavy gear across it or killing all the large organisms, that allows the system to have more balance within it and is then more resilient to further change. And that's why it's fantastic. Like around the UK, for example, we're getting a tranche of protected areas that will increase the resilience of the seas around us.
So locally we can do things. Overall, globally, ocean acidification, I presume, is partly driven by the amount of CO2 that we put into the atmosphere. We've done very little so far to reduce our anthropogenic emissions. Do you have much hope for the Paris talks in 2015? Do you think we're going to see a steep decline in human emissions of carbon dioxide anytime soon?
I don't think we're going to see a steep decline in human emissions of CO2 anytime soon, because at the moment the trajectory is just going up, and even huge financial crises like the one we've just gone through hasn't slowed that rate. And in fact, the industry is digging up and sending it to us as fast as we can use it, and we can use it pretty fast. Now, what to do about that situation is a global problem above my ability to cope with the suggestions of what to do. But locally, we can all do something. For example, just turning down the heat a bit, deciding not to fly around the world to talk to someone at a scientific conference. There's lots of things. I personally think buying food that's been produced the other side of the earth and then selling them food that we grow to the other side of the earth is kind of crazy. Those sorts of things need to sort of calm down. I know there's been this drive in my parents' generation to increase GDP, but this consumptive way of going about running the planet is clearly not good for the planet's resources on any level. And it doesn't help us going forwards if we use up these resources quickly. So for lots of reasons, it's good to sort of calm down, use less, and look after what we've got, because the rate at which we're losing what we've got is frightening.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I'm just trying to think about it. I'd like to say that don't anybody give up hope on this as an issue that can't be dealt with, because it clearly can. Oil is a finite resource, it's going to run out. We're going to have to look at other ways of getting energy anyway, full stop. And when I've been diving in places that have got very, very high CO2 levels, there's plenty of life still on the seabed. Now the problem is, lots of the life forms that we cherish today do disappear as CO2 increases. Coral reefs are an iconic example, but there's many others. But nevertheless, life still goes on in the ocean. What we need to do is harness what the oceans are telling us in high CO2 areas to make the best of what we're going to end up with. Because if we don't do that, we lose a vital opportunity. But it's not a case of, oh, well, let's just burn as much as we can, enjoy ourselves while we can, because everything's doomed. That's not the case at all. I would like to make sure that we rescue, archive, and keep as much as we've got as possible.